My BMW E46 has a huge problem that even mechanics couldn't fix in the past 3 years. And your BMW can suffer from that too. So therefore we are trying to fix it in this video in less than 10 hours. But if that wasn't enough, you and I are going to witness a dumb mistake that made me do that job all over again. Oh no. But more to that later. First, I want to show you the big annoying issue. The rear end of the car clunks every time when changing gears or driving backwards. I just feel like there's so much slack in this drivetrain, and even mechanics didn't know how to fix it. They just said to me, just replace the differential, and I have done that. Well, I really like this car, but in the state of that, I don't really enjoy driving it. To be honest, I have lost all hope in fixing this issue. But when I stumbled upon this video, I gained some hope again. So I bought myself a used but still good replacement part for 30 bucks. Hopefully that fixes my car so that I can enjoy it again. Let's unplug the battery. Yeah. Perfect. At first we're going to remove this plastic here. Here in the back there are 3 screws, so we're going to unscrew them. Last step. Snip, snip. And finished. Come on, up with you. Blah. And now we are unscrewing the reinforcement plate. It is held up by 4 screws. Next step, remove this bracket here in the front. Now we are unplugging the O2 sensor. And now we are beginning to remove the exhaust. But before, we remove the clutch slave cylinder. And unplug the reverse light sensor. Let's remove the exhaust. So therefore we have to remove 4 nuts from the header. Then we are lowering the car so that the exhaust can sit on this table. And then we are undoing 4 bolts that hold the exhaust in the middle. Now we are unbolting the 2 missing nuts in the rear and slip out the exhaust out of the exhaust hanger. And now we are going to lift up the car. And the exhaust is out. That was easy. Let's go outside with this. Now let's remove the small heating shield, which is held up by 2 screws, and then the big heating shield, which is held up by 3 screws. Now let's undo the prop shaft. At first 2 nuts in the middle and then 3 bolts in the front. And off it is. Oh, finally. Now we need to lower the transmission a little bit that we can unscrew the bolts at the top. Now comes my most hated clip here. And it is above here. I think on this car it's pretty easy. Hopefully. Ah, perfect. I hate this. Okay. Well, and now we can begin to unbolt all the screws from the transmission. So if you like seeing cars get repaired that everyone else would have given up on, subscribe. Because my channel is about fixing cars that are deemed not worth fixing. Ah, okay. And now it is time to take out the transmission. So therefore I'm bolting up the transmission in the back. And then I'm lowering the car right above my trolley. And now we're unbolting the last missing bolts for the transmission to come out. And off it is. I'm so glad. You're so brave. Bye bye. And here we can see the clutch pressure plate and also the flywheel. So let's remove the clutch pressure plate, which is held up by 6 screws. And now we can remove it together with the clutch disc. Now take a look at here. This is pretty broken. We have our problem here. Let's take it out. Here's our suspect, hopefully. And now we're removing all 8 bolts which hold up the flywheel to the crankshaft. And finally, out it is. You definitely want to know how to diagnose a DMF, right? So all you need for that is a pen and your hands. The dual mass flywheel or DMF has 2 parts, the inner and outer mass. They are connected by springs to reduce engine vibrations in the drivetrain and protect your gearbox. Here's a test. Push the inner part to one side and mark a line. Therefore you can use a clutch dowel pin as reference. Do the same thing, but this time turn it on the other side. And then count the teeth between the lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. For this specific DMF, the most allowed is 5 teeth. But it still should be good because it is within spec. But it feels different. So this here is the new one. With this one you don't really need much force to move it like that. And here you need so much more force. So now that we know the old one is within spec, I don't really have much hope that the new one is going to make a difference. Well, but we don't really have a different option, so hopefully it works. This is definitely a part where you want to torque it. This thing spins at engine speed, so you don't want that to take a lift off to space. Now on comes the clutch pressure plate with the clutch disc, and yet again we are torquing every single ball up to spec. So now it is time to reinstall the transmission, finally. After lowering the car, we're trying to wiggle the transmission into its place. I needed to remove the whole gearbox once more, because it wasn't fully on and I couldn't get it fully in. So I had to remove the clutch again and center it perfectly, and hopefully now we are going to make it. Come on, go in. But also this time it didn't work. So the transmission is finally in and we have 6:30. So if I want to drive home today, I need to really step up my game. It took about 3 hours to get in this transmission because of the clutch. It just didn't position right, so I needed a tool which is much better. So, you know, the transmission that came out of this car, I have done something I will regret, but this is the tool that I'm going to keep forever, and with this tool, the transmission of this car just slipped in like no other thing in the world. And now we're bolting up the transmission to the chassis. Install the prop shaft again, 3 screws in the front. Of course we are torquing everything up to spec, and 2 in the middle. And now, the last missing step, the exhaust, and then I really hope this car drives me home today. The exhaust has landed, and now all we need to do is to bolt it up and plug in the O2 sensor. Now we bolt up the reinforcement plate again and fasten the nuts for the exhaust hanger. Almost the last step. We need to install the reinforcement plate in the front again with 4 screws. Now we need to install the undertray. We are so close to driving this car. Well, just let's hope that this car is now driving me home safely. And I really hope the clunking sound is also away. Let's plug in the battery and then we can test it. Well, the car is finished. Let's hope everything works. To be honest, I'm nervous. With this second, 3 years of fighting to get this fixed can end now. Oh no. Issue with the clutch. Great. So, let's quickly put up the car in the air again. Brake fluid which comes out of the transmission here. Oh no. Let's quickly remove the clutch slave cylinder. So, what's with you? Oh no. Well, the clutch slave cylinder exploded and the internals are now in the transmission. This is not good. And here you can see me fishing out all of the stuff, but sadly I couldn't reach anything. No. This was a fatal sound. Oh gosh, no. This meant that all of the clutch slave cylinder internals are now in the bell housing. Even trying to fish it out with a magnet didn't help. And I need to remove the transmission once more. Okay guys, this car officially hates me. All the inside stuff from this clutch slave cylinder is now in here. Problem number 2, I suspect that the clutch is now full of brake fluid, so probably it wouldn't even grab. And problem number 3 is I can push this throw-up bearing with my hand. So, once more, lifting the car up in the air, seeing the car taking a whee, removed the under tray, the reinforcement plate, the exhaust, the prop shaft, and finally the gearbox. Can you spot something? In here, there is my clutch slave cylinder. Hopefully I can put it together and it works. And in here I can't seem to find any issues, except that this is pretty loose. So let's clean the internals of the clutch slave cylinder and try to install them again. But unfortunately the ring in front of the clutch slave cylinder that hold in the internals just snapped. So therefore we need to weld it on. I promise you this isn't a permanent solution because I don't trust that anymore. But for now it is good enough. So let's install it. But before that I want to show you what went wrong. The position of the clutch fork wasn't quite right, so therefore the clutch slave cylinder didn't push onto the clutch fork, it pushed into the air basically. And therefore it exploded when pushing the pedal. Before installing the transmission again, we are cleaning the clutch and also the bell housing, so that all of the brake fluid is gone. Fast forward a little bit, I have installed everything and now we need to bleed the clutch. So therefore we fill up the brake fluid reservoir and then just gravity bleed the clutch. And I'm also pumping the clutch a few times to build up some pressure. So all we want when gravity bleeding a clutch is a steady stream of brake fluid. So let's try to start a car and I really hope everything works now. Well, it started. So, now we're going to test drive this car. The clutch definitely feels different. Well, it actually is still here, but it's not that bad like before. I'm going to take a listen what happens when you drive backwards. Still the same issue. But you know, it feels different. I think that there isn't any vibration above 100 kilometers anymore. I'm actually a little bit disappointed right now because, you know, the last 3 years I've spent with fixing this issue and I couldn't fix it until now. I'm still not giving up. I just hope that I'm going to find the solution to that problem one day.